Hello and welcome to the Torah Outreach Program, Erev Shabbos Burst of Inspiration. Today's Burst of Inspiration is being sponsored by Mr. Sam and Daniela Kaplan as a schus for Shlema for David Mordechai Chai Ben Chaya Rezel and by Mr. and Mrs. Yitz Gdalyowitz, the Ilui Nishbas Tzvi Hirsch Ben Shimon. May the learning that comes from this video be a schus for a refuah shlema and the Ilui Nishmas the Neshama. Parshas Noach, second parsha in the Torah. We started again. Didn't have a chance to talk about Bereshis because it happened. It was combined with Yom Tov this year. Everybody talks about the beginning of the Torah reading, the Great Flood. But there was an incredible story that happened towards the end. The generation after the Great Flood, known as the generation of the dispersion. The people of that time had settled in a place called Shinar, which was later renamed Bavel. Today has been named Iraq. The entire world population was in that area. And they decided, being that it was one group, one large group, they all got along, they all spoke the same language, and they all were worried about what happened previously, the stories that they had been told about the Great Flood. They didn't want that to happen. And they decided to do something horrible. They wanted to use the God-given gift against God himself. What God-given gift am I talking about? We all know, everybody's been told, we're all made in the image of God. One of the first things we learn when we start the Torah reading, we start the new Torah reading in Bereshis, as we did last week. We're all made in the image of God. So I have two questions on that. One, what does that mean, image of God? God doesn't have an image. He's not limited by any physical attributes. He is completely spiritual and therefore all-encompassing. He doesn't have the limitations that we have being physical. There's no image. And secondly, there are so many different names of God that we use or that are used to show us different attributes. It uses the name Elokim. Tzelem Elokim. Image or shadow, really? Image of God. Image of Elokim. What is Elokim? Elokim references to God's absolute control. The boss, in charge and control of everything, can create, can destroy, by just using his words. And he gave mankind that image, that copy of this power. That's what it means, image of God. He gave us an ability to control. What does that mean? When God created man, he, as if tied his own hands and said, you're in charge. I can't do anything, create anything, or destroy anything unless you deserve it. Your prayers, your mitzvos, your behavior, your actions, that's what makes things happen. Prime example of this, the original example of this, is we're all told in the 6 days of creation, God made the trees and the flowers and everything else, when in actuality he made them, but they weren't visible until man came on the scene prayed for rain and everything popped out from the ground after it rained, to show man the need for rain and the need for prayer. Nothing happens unless we either ask for it or deserve it. Our actions and our prayers create, and God forbid, if we don't use this power properly, it can destroy. The way I like to explain this is God created this incredible computer program. Gave us the computer and loaded it up with all this incredible software. And then put the created man and put the keyboard on man's lap. And said, go for it. You hit the right buttons, amazing things happen. You hit the wrong buttons, viruses, terrible things can happen. Bank collapses, all kinds of things that we see that can happen with if you know how to hack a computer, or a certain virus can destroy economies. Well, that's what God did to the universe. He created man and gave him the keyboard. You're in charge. I don't do anything unless you either deserve it, you ask for it. Well, this generation, the generation after the flood, they were angry. They didn't want to have to be based on their behavior. They didn't want to have to answer to God. So they wanted to use their Tselem Elokim, their godly powers, to make war with God, as if to separate their destinies away from the divine control. And nothing that happens to them has anything to do with God. So they created this famous Tower of Babel, and they supposedly were going to use this power to destroy the relationship that we have. And we all know what happened in the end. God took away that power. He took away Lashon HaKodesh, the Hebrew, the holy tongue, which today we call Hebrew, but it's not modern Hebrew, it's Torah Hebrew. And he mixed up all their languages, hence the name Bavel, Libalbel means to confuse, and it's even used in English. That the English word Babel comes from the Hebrew word Libalbel, to confuse. And then he left it with one person. There was one person at that time who didn't like this rebellion against God. And he tried to stop everyone. And he was a voice in the wilderness. No one would listen. And when they lost their language, and it was replaced by multiple languages, and when they lost their Tselem Elokim, their godly power, that one man didn't lose it. And that one man's name was Avraham. Avraham. We learn about it, the very, very little mention at the end of this parsha, and we start learning about mainly in next week. But that power, that Tselem Elokim, that image of God, never left him and was passed down to his descendants. But what does this teach us? We have a power. Our words, our prayers, our deeds can change not just our own fate, universes, destinies. Things can go from good to bad or from bad to good only because we made it so. Our prayers, in our mitzvos make things happen. It's a tremendous power, and it's a tremendous responsibility. We need to use it well. Good Shabbos.